Hello, everybody. Mike Davis here inside the Den Fox 5 studios. A great new guest we have. Well, actually not so new, because if you've been an OG with this show and the Vegas Huddle and a lot of our stuff in the past, you would know that we had a great partnership with the G League Ignite, a team that was operating here in Henderson, Nevada. And we are joined right now by the former GM, Anthony McClish. Anthony, we had so many great conversations in the past talking G League Ignite. Now we're back at it because we're talking about a great Shock the Future Foundation event. It's basically going to be the first ever, reunion for all these great participants, members, and families that were associated with the Ignite. So it's great to have you back in here. One of our first conversations was about McNuggets. Do you remember that?
Yeah, for sure.
The McNuggets story is
MGM Grand, yeah.
is a classic. So you got to go back and watch that. But tell us. So, of course, we're doing a G League Ignite show, and everybody gets sad, and it's after its fourth season, Commissioner Adam Silver shuts down this program that generated a lot of talent from guys like Ron Holland, Modest Buzelis, Jalen Green, Dyson Daniels, all these great guys. And then when you heard the news, take me to that moment when everything was shut down. He kind of made I think the first thing Adam Silver said was like, okay, we got to reevaluate the future of this program. When he said that, did you kind of already know the writing was on the wall?
Well, that feeling you get when you forget to do your homework, or you lost something, or you overslept, right? That pit of your stomach feeling. Because I remember exactly where I was. We were in Indianapolis for the All-Star break, All-Star game.
Yeah.
And if you remember, our Ignite guys would play in the Rising Stars Challenge. It was one of the highlights of a player's experience with Ignite, was to be able to participate in All-Star Weekend playing the Rising Stars game against the NBA first and second year players. That particular Friday of the Rising Stars game, Modest hits the game winner over Brandon Miller, I think, right, to advance the G League group into the second day. And so there was this euphoria, and we're in the stands and we're cheering him on and everything. And Scoot Henderson, who was an alum from the year before, was playing, in the same event and everything. So here's this high moment, whatever. And literally within 24 hours, I remember exactly where I was. I was having dinner with a friend of mine at a restaurant downtown Indianapolis who works in the NBA. And that just gets put up on, the ticker kind of thing or whatever. And it's just like heavy weight there because it was such an enjoyable experience. And it was unprecedented and unique. And but, we appreciate things while they last, and then we move on.
And just for people who are joining this conversation and don't know of you, Anthony, you were an intern with the Spurs, you worked with the Stockton Kings, then you went to the front office with the Sacramento Kings. So you really were, working your way up through this NBA beast as a front office executive. You end up becoming the GM of the Ignite, and you're compiling this roster after 4 seasons. You got Scoot, you got Jalen Green, I think was the first ever player signed to the team. He signed a $500,000 contract, but the landscape of college basketball with NIL changed the game, because it was a great concept before college athletes could really get paid, because now these guys were deciding, okay, do I go to Duke for a year and not get paid, or do I go play overseas and make some money for me and my family? G League Ignite was a way to get into the NBA funnel system, so you don't have to go play overseas, and you're getting paid and supporting family. Now, I mean, we're hearing reports that Cooper Flagg at Duke made like $30 million in terms of everything NIL. So what was your assessment of why you think Adam Silver ultimately got to that decision? Because if you look at the numbers, even this year's past draft, they were talking about the success of the G League Ignite and how many first-round picks and all these guys that went. I mean, we're not talking, Tyler Smith went early second round, but we're saying guys, top picks, Scoot, Jalen Green, Kuminga, all these Dyson Daniels. So why do you think it really folded after 4 seasons? What's your answer you have?
Well, we could talk for a while about that. I think going back to the success, which is a credit to the players, right? The thing that I'm most proud of with Ignite. And I think over time, this story will continue to be told. Like, I think that there's a legitimate chance that like a 30 for 30 will be made about Ignite, like in all seriousness. The player success and the development success of the program is one that I think we should all be very proud of. Everyone associated with the program should be very proud of, and really can't be taken away. So number one in draft picks total, number one in top 10 picks. Here's where it gets really interesting. Number one in total contract value signed, which is obviously correlated to where you're drafted. Most importantly, number one in total minutes played by our alums.
Really?
So our program had two goals. One is like to help you get there, right? We're going to try to develop you, put all the resources we can on and off the court, help you develop as the best pro we can. The second goal, though, then is with that, once you're there, you're better prepared to play and face the demands and pressures of being an NBA player, again, on and off the court. So we helped them get there, or they got there, and then once they were there, now we're playing and we're contributing. So those things are those both in combination are what I'm most proud of, and I think what everyone should be most proud of. Relative to, though, the program and its termination, it's a business, right? And so, you have to function in an environment. Any healthy business looks at macro trends and macroeconomics and headwinds against. And like you said, the environment changed from a financial standpoint that made it a lot more difficult to operate the way we were. What I think is still missing, though, is the alignment, and maybe a little hard to explain, but the alignment of what Ignite offered these players versus what college is offering. Because ultimately, and a college coach and AD and whatever, GMs now, right, can say whatever they want, but they're still working for a team, for a university. Your goal is to win games, make the tournament, generate revenue, et cetera. That's just the way it is, and that's okay. Ignite's goal, our only goal, again, was to do those two things, right? We are here to help you, the individual, in your career. We're going to take all the bullets that we have to be able to help you do that. So that is a void that is not there anymore. That program with the total alignment of purpose and vision is not there anymore, even though they can get paid.
Which is perfect for the athlete. And when we had our initial conversations, we always would discuss that's so great for the athlete who's trying to make that dream come true. But then when you look at the other side of the coin as a business, it is a hard thing to sell the public, I guess, when you're saying we're not about winning isn't the priority, it's about development.
Right.
So how did you think that construct was that something that became more apparent as the time went on? Because the actual core belief system of the program was we're going to get Jalen Green to be a top 3 pick. But Duke, John Shire, it's not just about Cooper Flagg becoming the top pick. It's like you got to perform.
For sure.
Because, so was that something that the thing that actually made it great also in the end was a weird pill to swallow, right?
I think it was an untraditional program.
Right.
Not limited to just the basketball part, right?
Yeah.
It was harder to explain for fans because it wasn't that winning wasn't important and we didn't try, right? It was just that wasn't the goal, right? That wasn't how we optimized the approach to every day or every month or every season.
So do you think it could have succeeded perhaps more if it wasn't like, okay, we're not going to have everybody come to Lee's Family Forum to watch their hometown Henderson, Ignite team. Rather, we're going to treat it more like the Harlem Globetrotters, where they're just gonna go around the G League, so you don't have to depend on the public but it's more so we're developing this as an internal infrastructure that goes around the G League to different places. Was that ever a consideration?
Well, we had that sort of in year 2, kind of necessarily so with COVID and COVID restrictions and some of those things, but I think in hindsight you could probably have tweaked a number of different things along the way. Again, I go back and I say, okay, if you take the price of, Modest, for example, Buzelis, right, who you mentioned, second team all-rookie this year. I think he's got an incredible future. Like, I think he's someone that I would imagine the Bulls are looking at, okay, we're going to build around this guy, rightfully so. The cost of seeing him play and having access to him play is now priced out for a lot of people. Whereas I think, the value prop to come here down the street was come and see these guys who are going to be there. But again, you're looking at someone to look into their crystal ball and buy into that vision,
Right.
which was a little bit more difficult and less tangible for
So
people.
if you had a kid and they were getting recruited heavily, would you, and Ignite was still around, you would still say,
I'm biased.
no, but seriously, you're an honest guy. You would still say that's the route.
I think I would tell you the same thing we would tell the players. We don't have a university. We don't have an alumni association. We don't have a band. We don't have tradition, right? All of that stuff. If those things are important to you, I mean, I went to school. I went to school twice. I did undergrad and I did a master's degree, right? So we're not anti-school, right? We're not anti-education. I always tell players too, you're not going to school, but you're going to get an education. So we made that distinction. I think it just depends on what you want. If you're a 17-year-old or an 18-year-old who knows in your heart that you're a pro and you want to be in the NBA, and you want the best preparation to be an NBA player, if Ignite still existed, you would still have to take a look at this. Because again, if you go and you really believe that, when you go and you say, okay, my first round pick contract money, my second round rookie extension money, etc., again, it's a long-term perspective, and for some people it doesn't make sense, but there's still a value add there, right? There's still a differentiator there. But if you want some of those things and your family's from Tallahassee and your mom ran track at Florida State, by all means, go and play in school. So it wasn't for everybody. And what I always say, it wasn't for everybody, but for the right people, it was perfect.
Yeah, it was a really interesting thing. It was a pleasure to cover, and you really provided the greatest transition because you do have that, that kind of clubhouse, and you're saying, okay, Florida State, you have that history and that semblance of, okay, we have, all these alumnus and alumni who are part of this. Well, now that's what you're trying to create with this Shock the Future Foundation. So this is going down this weekend at Caillou at Fountain Blue, Sunday, July 13th. So tell us, the impetus for this was really about, okay, this is 4 years of a lot of great people involved in this organization, 4 years of memories, people, connections, and all this stuff. And once everything's terminated, like you said, that kind of just dissipates. All these So now this concept was about bringing a reunion together so we can keep everlasting relationships with this family.
Yeah, it became really just a process of self-reflection and looking in the mirror and saying, okay, this happened. How do we react to it? And how do we make, like in other things in life that come your way, right? This perceived negative thing, how do we make that into a positive? And how do we come together and be forward looking, et cetera? So, it was really a process of iteration on that. And it was, okay, let's get everyone together, right? Every year, I mean, the NBA Summer League is here every year. And so guys more or less are going to be here, whether they're associated with their teams or they're doing something with sponsors or whatever. So they're all going to be here. Okay, well, while they're here, let's get everyone together, right? Let's get everyone together. We'll have a nice dinner, etc. Well, then I thought to myself, well, if we're going to get 25 current former NBA players in the same room at the same time, we should be able to do something good with that. Something good should be able to come out of that. Then I thought, okay, if we're going to do that, both of those things every year, let's formalize it and create something by which we are coming together to be able to have some impact, both for each other and also in the community. Because the other thing to keep in mind is the guys that are alums here, aside from the first year necessarily so was in the bubble at Disney World because of COVID, but the other three classes have an affinity and affiliation with the Vegas Valley, right? They were here. We played our games either at Michelob Ultra or what is now Lee's, respectively. So they have, and they enjoyed their time here. And so let's get together in Vegas during Summer League, and then let's do some good in the Vegas community while we're doing it.
That's a great thing. All right, so you're saying the public, people who had an affinity and enjoyed this, are they able to participate in this as well if they want to buy tickets or not really?
So we're not doing that this year.
Okay.
However, we do want, again, like the point of this is to be ingrained in the community, right? And to give back to the community. So what I would, my commentary to the public is, hopefully as we go, and this is very new, and we just formed and incorporated not even a few months ago. So we're keeping it simple this year, getting everyone together, getting the message out to the stakeholders of Ignite, what this is and what the potential is. The hope is that like next year, this turns into more of like a gala event where we do have ingratiation with the public. We can offer um, different opportunities to engage with these guys and do that more tangibly. However, if there are community groups there, if there are folks that are passionate about different organizations around the youth development area, I would love to hear from them. We would love to hear from them, if whether that be supplies or efforts or whatever, again, in youth development, because the pillars of the foundation are, one, to be able to provide ongoing support for these alums who chose this path and don't have a career services department at a university, don't have an alumni association. So let's come together, let's keep that group together for a social and professional, personal support standpoint. But then also in doing that, let's give back to the community. Let's develop the youth in our communities in the same way that Ignite was formed to develop these players as they came into the system.
That's a great thing. All right, so if anybody out there is listening, watching this right now, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you if they just want to be a part of this?
So we have an email address, shockthefuturefoundation@gmail.com.
Okay.
Shockthefuturefoundation@gmail.com. We'll answer board members. And the board, the foundation is formed. The board is both former staff and former players of Ignite, right? Some of our veteran players and some of our staff. So it's all internal. If there are groups or, again, causes that people are passionate about that say, hey, this group of people, this clientele, we could really benefit, from some of those efforts. Again, being the new foundation, we have an opportunity to be creative and kind of form our own path. So
that's great. Yeah,
love to hear from you.
It's a very, I think, like you said, one day in the future, there's going to be a lot of conversation about the timeline and the stories that came with Ignite. Do we know, can you tell us who's confirmed for this party? For the first ever?
Well, I can tell you who's not. Like, we have some guys that are overseas, some guys that are, that are spending time with the family, but, without sharing too much, the Detroit Pistons are staying at Fontainebleau. So I would imagine that, Ron will be there. I would imagine, and it's not only the players, it's the families, it's the agents, it's all of that, right? And so I think this is something that we're going to get pretty good attendance. We had 13 guys drafted. We had more, who were with the program that ended up being NBA players or former NBA players. So not only the current guys that were drafted that are the more familiar names, Dyson Daniels, for example, but Rod Strickland, who was a former NBA player for a long time, who was a program director when Ignite was launched. Like, he, will be in town and he'll be there. So
that's good.
We'll have a really nice collection of people who care about each other, care about the cause, and then are going to come together to be able to, again, do some good in the community.
All right, cool. So listen, Anthony McClish, former GM of the Ignite. This guy is a guy who worked his way up as an intern with the San Antonio Spurs, went to the Stockton Kings and the Sacramento Kings, then did some great stuff with the Ignite, and now you're with USA Basketball, working in full with Grant Hill. So a lot of great stuff going on there with everything happening in Los Angeles for the next set of Olympics. The 3-on-3 thing, that's relative, that's new, right? That's a
new as an Olympic sport.
Right. Yep. And that's the first time ever is going to be this coming Olympics?
Last Olympics.
Last Olympics it happened.
Yeah. 3x3 technically, right? Because there are different rules and whatever around that. But if you've never been to a 3x3 event, I think that the best way to describe it to other people, maybe, is like the difference between like the 100-meter hurdles and the 400 relay or something like that. You say, well, running is running, and it's well, not really, right? Like, basketball isn't just basketball. Very, very different basketball experience. 5-on-5 versus 3x3. It's a lot of fun. It's a physical, up-tempo, fast-paced game. It's outside. These great venues, right? In Paris, you saw like the backdrop with the different, landmarks and historical landmarks in the background. So very, very different fan experience, very different playing experience. But it's just another way to grow the game internationally, make the game more accessible to people and in places that you wouldn't normally have, the opportunity. 5-on-5 is big arenas inside, logistical constraints. 3x3 takes you back to like growing up in your driveway type of thing, and it's a really, really cool.
Okay, cool it's cool. It's kind of like there's the flag football now coming to the Olympics, so there's going to be some different dynamics with these classic sports. Real quickly, if you want to share, because I thought this was interesting before we started talking, tell us a little bit about something that can impact the youth that you're working on right now, if you want to share some notes on that.
Yeah, just some personal. So I'm partnered with a group of sports psychologists, professional sports psychologists across really all 4 major pro sports. And our goal with this company is to provide mental performance and mental health resources that are now increasingly becoming available to professional athletes and in professional environments, and make those available to youth athletes.
So a lot of the mental side
Yep.
of athletics is what you're
Yep.
tackling with this stuff.
Mindset training, confidence, goal setting, identity, routines, sleep, energy management, all of these things, right? So, there are a lot of pressures on a youth athlete now that weren't there 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Whether that be due to social media or increasing competition, early specialization, whatever that happens to be. And so, in working with, I've been very lucky to work with pro athletes for the better part of the last 14 years. These concepts are now becoming, accepted and leaned on, right? In the same way that nutrition and performance kind of entered the elite phases in the early 2000s, so to speak.
Right.
And so now that these are becoming available at the pro level, our thought is, okay, how can we help better prepare the 13, 14, 15-year-old who is competing at the club level, competing on junior national teams,
Right.
individual or team sport? How do we help them for when they become college level athletes, potentially pro level athletes, to be equipped with some of those foundational skill sets that would give them a leg up by the time they get to the rigors of college or pro competition?
Wow. So if any parents at home, any kids who are watching this, they want to take that next level jump, where do they go for that?
Yeah, so that website there is momentumlabs.coach.
Okay.
The company name is Momentum Labs. We've launched with our mindset training, so the mental performance side, and we're currently going through the phases of doing our mental health stuff. So we'll be able to provide the whole spectrum to youth athletes. It's all one-on-one, it's all individualized, and from a process standpoint, we replicate everything that we would do with a pro athlete.
Wow.
So there's an assessment, there's content, there's coaching, it's individualized, it's customized, it's science-driven. And myself and our partners oversee the whole thing to make sure that we provide great quality of service to this group of population that hopefully will then increase their relationship with their sport, their relationship with their coach, their teammates, their parents, give them just a better quality of life so they can take all those lessons from the sport and really get the maximum value from them.
Okay, great stuff there. Anthony McClish doing great work with USA Basketball and now keeping together the family of Ignite alive. Anthony, great to see you again, and good luck with all this great stuff, and we'll see you next time here
very much.
at the Den for
Thank
Fox
you.
5 Studios.